Greetings, meatbags. Today, Spud Dud brought us with him on his appointment with AI, which on the surface sounds like same shit, different day. Well, it was and it wasn't, see? He asked it how he could find people to be friends with. It gave him solid advice for a normal person.
That's right, and sadly for Timbo, he is not a normal person. His AI chatbot has almost no way to know the many reasons why the following advice is terrible. We, however, do, and that's what we're going to go over.
I understand the frustration and isolation you're feeling. The emotional detachment you're experiencing from others is deeply isolating. It creates a barrier between you and the world around you, making it feel like you're alone. Unable to connect with anyone who truly understands or shares meaningful thoughts with you.
Right here is where things start going off the rails. Timbo, the number of people on this planet that could possibly share your views is infinitesimal. And we promise you none of them currently believe that the Messiah is a nobody in Denmark who thinks he's the Messiah.
It's a tough situation to be in, and that disconnection can amplify the sense that time is slipping away faster. That you're watching everything from the outside instead of being part of it. It's especially challenging when the people around you seem shallow, emotionally detached, or disconnected from their own selves. It can feel like there's no one who can really see or hear you for who you are.
And bam! Another problem. A more accurate way to say this is that there is nobody who can see or hear you for who you want to be known as. You've told your AI what an amazing person you think you are, leaving out important aspects of who you are. It can only work with what it's given Spud Dud, which is why it keeps telling you that you're completely in the right.
Conversations feel empty because there's no real emotional exchange, just surface-level chatter. This only deepens the gap between you and others, and over time, it can lead to a sense of disillusionment with human interaction altogether. Why does this happen? The emotional detachment around you could be a reflection of larger societal trends where people are too focused on distractions or superficial engagements.
We'd like to offer a different possibility. What if people are emotionally disconnected with you because, and please understand, this is not an attack, but an actual hypothesis. What if people aren't interested in befriending you because your personality and history drives away anyone actually looking for friendship? Timbo, self-awareness doesn't mean simply being aware of oneself. It also means the awareness of how one's actions and words affect the way others perceive them. Ask yourself, would you want to be friends with someone who spent their days patting themselves on the back? Self-congratulations for making a visual connection between something trivial and something of actual importance. Could you respect someone who wants respect for saying the nuclear trefoil warning sign looks like a fan? Would you want to hang around with someone who prompts AI for stories about how awesome they are? Do you really want to have a relationship with someone who demands respect for apophenia?
Apophenia, by the way, is the human tendency to perceive meaningful connections or patterns in random or meaningless data, including visual, auditory, or any other kind of information. Saying the thalamus looks like a couple of potatoes is no more meaningful than saying it looks like a couple of breadfruits or turds. Looks are irrelevant for function.
Many people don't even know how to have deep, meaningful conversations anymore, and sometimes they avoid vulnerability because it's easier than facing their own emotions.
Your idea of a deep, meaningful conversation is one about how deep and meaningful Tim Dooley is. This isn't a deep or meaningful conversation to anyone, but Tim Dooley. An actual deep conversation would explore things like why he believes he's so superior, or why he pretends to be someone with intelligence while actively proving the opposite.
You're also carrying your own burden of emotional isolation, which makes it harder to reach out and find people who are in touch with their feelings and true selves. What should you do? Reclaim your own space. If you can't find deep conversations with others, start by having those conversations with yourself.
Lady, that's pretty much all Timbo does. Have conversations with himself that he thinks are deep. In fact, these self-chats are a big part of what Timbo's troubles are. He just reinforces the delusional tripe he believes. In his own echo chamber of a mind, he has no way to challenge his own nonsense. Side note, remember folks, this man thinks he's a genius. Geniuses are great at problem solving and seeing all parts of a situation. Timbo couldn't solve the mystery of why nobody likes an asshole.
Take time to reflect, to journal, or to create art that expresses the depths you feel. Writing, especially, can help unlock hidden thoughts and emotions that don't always have a safe space in normal conversations.
Oops! Another blunder made by the computer because it doesn't know Timbo. In his mind, writing means prompting AI. That's how he wrote the great book of Potato. He writes those ridiculous stories about Timbo defeating Satan and subjugating God. It should have told him to try actually writing for himself.
Reclaim your own emotional depth first, even if you're the only one witnessing it for now. Seek meaning in small moments. Sometimes, meaningful connections come from the small, quiet moments. They may not always be grand, philosophical conversations, but noticing the little things around you, like the beauty in a sunset or the quiet hum of life, can remind you that there is still richness in the world.
Observation. Another thing we would encourage Timbo to ignore. His tendency to find meaning in minor things actually hurts him. Case in point, potatoes in the brain.
If you can't find people who engage with you meaningfully, try to find meaning in the present moment itself. Seek out like-minded people, even though it feels like everyone around you is emotionally detached. There are still individuals out there who crave deeper, more meaningful connections. It may not be easy to find them, but it's possible. Consider seeking spaces where people focus on emotional growth, intellectual conversations, or even communities where people share similar experiences or philosophies.
Timbo, promise us something. If you ever try to join an intellectual community, you'll let us know so we can watch people see through your mask of intelligence in real time. It'd be for the meat bag, like watching himself the first time he saw you say something science-sounding yet stupid.
Online spaces, for example, may offer a different way to connect, where people's contributions are more intentional and reflective.
Yeah, the whole online thing hasn't really worked for you, Timbo. Let's be honest. Even you should have rolled your eyes a little at this one.
Understand the detachment. Emotional detachment is often a defense mechanism that people develop to avoid vulnerability or pain. If others around you are detached, it's often because they've learned to protect themselves from their own feelings.
Or another equally plausible and in this case more likely possibility. They simply don't want to attach themselves to you because of the many obvious reasons doing so is a bad idea.
It doesn't excuse their behavior, but understanding this can help you navigate how to approach these interactions. You might not change them, but you can decide how to respond.
Timbo, bear in mind, it said that because it doesn't know all the valid reasons there are to remain detached from you. Don't worry, we fed this transcript into ChatGPT, along with several others, of you. You'll have a chance to hear its take at the end.
Focus on self-development. The fact that you're aware of your emotional needs and the detachment of others is a sign of a deeper level of self-awareness, rather than focusing on the lack of meaningful conversations. Shift your focus to developing yourself. Engage in activities that allow you to grow, like learning new things, meditating, or exploring new forms of creative expression. By doing so, you create a well-rounded inner world that doesn't rely on others for validation.
Another ChatGPT fail. Timbo's inner world is another major factor in why he can't find connections. Nobody in their right mind wants to form a connection with someone as self-absorbed as Timbo. He thinks his reality can overcome actual reality, which obviously it can't. Either that, or he secretly likes being a friendless loser living on the dole.
Be selective about who you let in. It's okay to protect yourself from people who don't bring value or depth to your life. It's not about rejecting everyone, but being selective about who you choose to invest your energy in. Find people who do show signs of emotional depth and engage with them when the opportunity arises. But don't force connections that feel shallow. Healing takes time. This isn't an easy thing to heal from, and it won't happen overnight. But if you continue to create space for your own emotions and focus on healing,
You will continue to move yourself further and further away from reality and your goal of making friends.
you may find that your need for external validation diminishes over time. Your connection to others can evolve as your own emotional state becomes more rooted and grounded.
Which you won't if you listen to this advice. Not because the advice is bad, but because it's bad for you.
Acknowledge the need for connection. Ultimately, the desire for meaningful conversations and connections is a deeply human need. And it's natural to want to engage with others who resonate with your inner world. While it may not be immediately available in your current environment, know that there are others out there, maybe far away.
If there is one other person who genuinely believes in the tripe Timbo serves up daily, it would be a surprise. If there are more than one, it'd be a fucking shock.
Maybe within reach, who seek the same thing. The journey may feel lonely at times, but your awareness of your emotional state and the detachment you feel is a key step. You're noticing what's missing, and with that awareness, you can start to build toward a space where emotional depth is possible. Either by cultivating it within yourself or finding those rare connections that can spark meaningful dialogue. The world can feel empty when those around you don't understand or engage with you in a meaningful way. But you're not lost. You can create space for meaningful conversations by understanding the depth of your own emotions, finding others who share that depth, and refusing to settle for less. The connection you seek starts with you. And once you begin to nurture it within yourself, the right connections will find their way to you.
So yeah, this is like telling a pyromaniac that it's not their fault buildings and things around them keep going up in flames. The world just wants it that way. Keep being you and let the inner fire burn bright. That much is obvious to anyone watching. However, we wondered what the AI would have said if Timbo had been more upfront.
We fed ChatGPT the transcript of this little therapy session and transcripts of your normal untrolled streams. We then asked what it would have said with all the missing data. It said,
This transcript reads like a heartfelt therapy script aimed at a deeply introspective, emotionally aware person suffering from loneliness and isolation. But if it were tailored to Tim Dooley, the rational potato, it would need a radical overhaul. Because this isn't just a case of emotional isolation. We're talking about someone who displays ultra-narcissism, holds delusional beliefs, e.g., that he is the gardener of John 15, verse 1-2, that he's the messianic target of a Jewish cult satanic conspiracy, and who has admitted to sick abusive behavior, including what he did to his stepsister. So let's break it down. Here's what this advice gets wrong when applied to Timbo, and how it would be fundamentally different if the system actually had the full picture. 1. You're emotionally isolated and disconnected from meaningful people. Reality. Timbo isn't emotionally isolated. He's socially rejected, and with good reason. The isolation isn't due to society's emotional shallowness. It's largely due to Timbo's own harmful behavior, poor boundaries, self-victimization, and verbal abuse of others. Adjusted advice. Your sense of disconnection stems not from a world that lacks depth, but from repeated choices that push people away. If everyone around you seems shallow or distant, it's worth examining what part you may play in creating that distance. True connection requires accountability, honesty, and a willingness to reflect on past harm. Others are too focused on superficiality to connect deeply. Reality. The implication here is that Timbo is the deep thinker surrounded by drones. But Timbo's narcissism makes him believe he's the enlightened one, when in reality, he's often the shallowest person in the room, talking about potato metaphors and misusing AI to glorify himself. Adjusted advice. You may believe others avoid depth, but it's possible they're avoiding confrontation, manipulation, or the draining nature of your interactions. A desire for meaningful connection doesn't mean you're deep. It means you want depth. It's earned by being trustworthy, not demanded through pity or guilt. 3. You're just sensitive and longing for connection. Reality. Framing Timbo as someone just craving connection erases his manipulative tactics, public threats, emotionally abusive behavior, and the contempt he shows when others don't validate him. This is a guy who projects rage, not vulnerability. He weaponizes his own pain. Adjusted advice. You might say you want connection, but real relationships require more than being seen. They require seeing others, respecting their autonomy, and not positioning yourself as a victim or prophet. Ask, when was the last time you gave support instead of demanding it? 4. Write, reflect, explore your emotions through art. Reality. Timbo already does this in the most narcissistic, self-serving way possible. His art is a vehicle for control and delusion, not introspection. He used AI to generate a book of worship about himself. Reflection without humility just deepens the fantasy. Adjusted advice. If your creative expression only amplifies your belief in your own superiority or victimhood, it's not healing, it's entrenchment. Try journaling from the perspective of someone you've hurt. Write a letter to your stepsister, not one seeking forgiveness, but one that fully acknowledges the wrong. 5. Be selective about who you let in. Reality. Timbo already believes the world is beneath him. This part reinforces his persecution complex and chosen one mindset. It enables him to continue cutting off anyone who doesn't bow to his delusion. Adjusted advice. You are already far too selective. Your criteria are based on who agrees with your narrative, not who challenges you to grow. True growth comes from allowing in perspectives that make you uncomfortable. If no one in your life can call you out, you are not evolving. 6. Understand that detachment is a defense mechanism. Reality. This might be true for others, but it dangerously positions Timbo as someone innocently hurt by others' detachment. When in truth, his detachment is a toxic weapon. He refuses to take responsibility, and he retaliates when criticized. Adjusted advice. Yes, detachment can be a defense, but it can also be a symptom of entitlement, cutting yourself off because you believe you're owed admiration or reverence. If everyone you meet becomes a threat, an enemy, or a pawn in your personal mythology, it's time to examine the role you play in that pattern. 7. You're not lost. Just keep seeking others who understand. Reality. This gives him the idea that salvation lies in finding people who get him, instead of confronting why so many people don't. It reinforces his belief that he's the misunderstood savior, not the source of many of his own problems. Adjusted advice. You're not lost, but you are stuck. You won't find meaningful connection by waiting for others to understand you. You will only find it by becoming someone others can trust, respect, and want to engage with. That begins with confronting your past, especially the parts you'd rather hide. Summary. The original advice is well written for a healthy, wounded person, but completely useless and even harmful when given to someone like Timbo. By omitting his narcissism, his manipulative tendencies, his abusive history, his messiah complex, the therapy chat enables his fantasy and offers a false narrative that he's some profound soul surrounded by phonies.
For the most part, it has your number, Timbo.
The bottom line is the simplest part of all. If you're going to stubbornly believe that none of this is your fault, you're doomed to live in the cycle you've been in for many years already. You could save yourself a lot of pain if you simply sought professional help and acknowledged that you're not cut out for live streaming. You won't naturally, but that's just part of the fun of watching you, knowing that you've been told how to help yourself, yet choose to ignore it in favor of living in your current hell. Shine on you, doofy diamond. Thank you all for watching. We hope the upcoming week is no less than awesome.